welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a really specific and ambitious linguistic experiment that was actually suggested by one of you.
That's right. And it sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, but it's all grounded in, well, linguistic architecture.
The challenge was to read the scripture backward,
Huh.
not metaphorically, but literally, word by word,
Exactly. Start at the very last word on the very last page, read toward the front, and then, and this is the key part, reverse the spelling of each word.
to see if these reversed words, these anadromes, actually assemble into a coherent hidden message.
We're essentially asking if there's an intentional narrative encoded right into the Bible structure that only reveals itself when you flip the switch.
So is the language itself part of the message? That's the core question?
It is. We're looking for theological unity, not just some clever wordplay.
Okay, so let's get into how this actually works. You have to start somewhere, right? A text this size.
You do. So we started with the standard English King James Version, the KJV, and we focused on the two bookends, Genesis 1 and Revelation 22.
The beginning and the end. Makes sense.
And we followed the hypothesis to the letter. Every English word spelled backward, then check to see if it formed another real English word.
So a word like live becomes evil.
Right, or God becomes dog, no becomes on. Simple reversals.
And the results from Revelation 22 were, let's say, not what you were hoping for.
Underwhelming is a kind word. It was almost discouragingly nonsensical. We found a few valid words like was from saw.
But the sentence it formed.
It was gibberish. A partial sequence read, I dog on was eel dog. No was dog was no was.
I dog on was eel dog. Okay, so not exactly a hidden prophecy about the end of the world.
No, it was just linguistic static. But, to be thorough, we didn't stop there. We ran the entire 780 words of Genesis 1 through the same process, same result. The message was completely dominated by these tiny words. Dog was no. It was random. It told us one thing for sure.
What's that?
If a message exists, it is not in the English translation. It's not in any Indo-European language. We had to go to the original.
Which means moving to ancient Hebrew. So how does that shift change the entire probability of this experiment?
It changes everything. It comes down to how the languages are built. English words are, for the most part, fixed. Their meaning is tied to their spelling.
But Hebrew is different.
Very different. It's a Semitic language, which means it operates on a root-based system. It's incredibly flexible.
Let's talk about those roots, the trilateral roots, right?
Exactly. Most core Hebrew words are built from just 3 consonants. The oldest texts, the really authoritative ones, were just those consonants. Vowels were added much, much later.
And that's the key.
That is the absolute key. When you reverse 3 consonants in English, like C-A-T to T-A-C, you get nonsense.
Right. Tack is not a word.
But in Hebrew, because the vowels are flexible, that reverse sequence of 3 consonants can almost instantly form the root of a completely new, totally valid Hebrew word.
Ah, I see. So the sister itself is designed in a way that makes finding these reversed words, these anadromes, far more likely.
Dramatically more likely. The consonants for, say, to create, when you flip them, might suddenly become the root for to pledge. The language is just built for this kind of depth.
I can't imagine the work involved.
Yeah.
Cross-referencing thousands of root combinations.
It was a serious effort, but unlike the KJV, the Hebrew text gave us something back. Immediately.
Okay, so you start again, Genesis 1.1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What happens when you run the Hebrew through the reversal test?
The coherence was instant. I mean, of just those first 7 words, 2 of them gave us these profound theological reversals.
So no more I dog on was eel dog.
Not at all. For example, the word that functions as a direct object marker, it basically just points to the thing being acted on.
Okay.
Its consonants, reversed, form a root that means wipe out or erase.
Wow. Wipe out. That's a heavy concept for the first sentence of the entire Bible.
And it gets heavier. The word for created, its consonants reverse into a root that means pledge or mix.
Wait a second. So if you read the core components of Genesis 1.1 backward, the hidden message is something like erase, pledge.
Exactly. It suggests the entire purpose of creation wasn't just to make a physical world, but to create the canvas, you could say, for a future plan. A plan to erase a problem and establish a pledge or a covenant.
So it's hinting at the entire story of redemption before the fall even happens.
This was the moment we knew we were onto something real.
That is just a massive shift. So does this theme continue? Let's go deeper into the rest of Genesis 1.
It does, and it builds into this surprisingly coherent four-part message. If you look at the first daylight and darkness in verses 2 through 5,
What do the reversals show there?
a few key themes emerge. We find roots that mean delay or protract. And very significantly, the root for spirit or wind shows up twice.
And there was one more.
Yes, a root meaning associate, join, or bind.
So the hidden message in the creation of light is about the divine delaying something, with the spirit actively involved in binding a covenant. That fits perfectly with the pledge you found earlier.
It does. Then you move to the firmament and the seas, verses 6 to 10. Here, a new root appears. Distress, trouble, or oppress.
So trouble is already present in the narrative, just hidden.
It seems so. And this section repeats the root for delay. So the message is consistent. Judgment is being delayed over a span of time, even though distress exists.
Okay, then we get to vegetation, actual life, verses 11 to 13. You said this is where it really comes into focus.
It does. This is the most direct part. We found a root that means wickedness, guilt, or crime,
Wickedness.
followed immediately by a reversal pointing to the foundation or base. But then the very next one means taught or instructed.
So the sequence is erase wickedness at its foundation and replace it with instruction.
The mechanism for redemption is laid out right there. Now look at the heavenly bodies, verses 14 to 19, the sun, moon, stars, the things that mark time.
And what did that section give you?
It was stark. It was the root for wipe out, erase 3 times. Erase, erase, erase. It's this absolute statement of judgment, and it's tied directly to the measurement of time.
And finally, the creation of humanity.
Verses 20 to 31. Right as humans are created, the backward message adds 2 new roots. Tell, narrate, or proclaim, and the word for science or knowledge.
So humanity's mandate in this hidden message is to proclaim knowledge.
As part of the grand plan to erase the fallen state, when you step back, the whole chapter tells one coherent story.
A delayed, spirit-guided plan to wipe out wickedness at the foundation and establish a new covenant based on instruction. It's a full theology.
It is a complete redemptive arc hidden in the language of creation.
The consistency is just staggering. So the next logical step is the fall itself, Genesis 2 and 3. Does the solution continue to be embedded there?
The theme holds perfectly. When you analyze the reversals in the fall narrative, the temptation, the sin, the exile, you find roots for tremble fear, then erase, but then crucially, heal and repair.
So not just judgment, healing.
Exactly. And that's followed by knowledge and taught instructed before another erase. The solution is healing through instruction. It's right there.
Okay, this is where it gets even more interesting. You took this method to the New Testament, to John 1 in the original Greek.
We did. And just like with the English KJV, the Greek test failed.
Completely failed.
Completely. And this is a vital point. Koine Greek is an Indo-European language. Its words are built with prefixes, suffixes, grammatical endings. Reversing the consonants just gives you gibberish.
So the message is locked. It is linguistically specific to the root-based structure of Hebrew.
It's locked to that Semitic structure. But here's the brilliant next step the listener suggested. What if you translate the New Testament back into Biblical Hebrew and then run the test?
So you translated John's prologue into Hebrew.
We did, and the coherence just snapped right back into place.
Wow.
We found reversed roots like desire, exist, gift, wickedness, and weakness. But the most fascinating part was the core of the sequence.
What was it?
It read Av, which means father, Haya, exists, Ruah, spirit.
Father exists, spirit.
In the very text that declares the Word was God, the reversed hidden message affirms the triune Godhead. The theme is continuous from Genesis.
This is just mind-blowing. Let's bring it back to what prompted this whole deep dive. Reports from exorcism priests about entities speaking ancient Hebrew in reverse.
Right. This finding puts that into a much deeper context. It suggests the language is structured as a kind of divine fail-safe.
A fail-safe.
Think about it. If reversal is the weapon of chaos and deceit, the very structure of Hebrew forces that reversal to proclaim the truth. It forces it to declare the divine plan to erase wickedness.
So it's a demonic checkmate. The language literally can't lie, even when it's inverted.
The text becomes self-authenticating. The weapon of chaos is neutralized by the very nature of the language.
To really drive this home, let's look at a few final bookends you found, starting with the absolute core confession of Judaism.
The Shema, Deuteronomy 6.4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. 6 Hebrew words.
The foundation of Jewish faith.
When you reverse it, root for root, the message becomes, pierce unity, I am God, dwells. I am straight to God here.
It shifts from a statement of God's oneness to what sounds like a messianic prophecy.
It points directly toward a suffering Messiah who dwells with humanity, but there's one that's even more perfect.
God's own name.
God's self-definition to Moses in Exodus 3.14, I am that I am. In Hebrew, Avi Asher Ehi. When you reverse the consonants of that phrase,
What happens?
it remains exactly the same. It is a perfect palindrome.
That's theological architecture.
Yeah.
The statement of God's being is invariant. It holds true forward and backward outside of time's direction.
And one final piece, Psalm 22, the crucifixion psalm. The climactic line, he has done it, which parallels, it is finished.
Is that also a palindrome?
Like a perfect palindrome. The very phrase marking the completion of the redemptive act is linguistically perfect in both directions.
And the whole reversal of that psalm.
It reads like a resurrection announcement. It is finished, becomes the end stops, and then every knee bows in wonder.
This is so much more than wordplay. It feels like the text is a self-authenticating, directionally invariant declaration of this plan, embedded at a microscopic level.
And you see this kind of non-linear design in the large-scale literary structures, too, like chiastic structure, that ABCBA pattern that ancient writers use.
Right, where the central point is the most important. Like in the flood story, the center is, and God remembered Noah.
Exactly. This experiment just confirms that the Hebrew language does this at the root level, not just the literary level. The language God chose wasn't just a tool to write things down.
It seems like the language itself is a system where the form perfectly mirrors the content of the message.
Which leaves a pretty big question for you to think about. If the truth of God's redemptive plan is encoded into the very structure of the language, existing forward and backward at the same time, what does that imply about how God experiences time itself?
Something to mull over for sure. Thank you for joining us on this absolutely breathtaking deep dive.